EA's Star Wars Battlefront was a beautiful game which was never truly capable of living up to its predecessor. EA treated it as a test for future games in the series by introducing the basic gameplay elements with no real substance. It gave people the perfect feeling of being in a Star Wars universe without the ability to experience much of what it had to offer. This tactic may have backfired on them, as there was a huge amount of backlash about the game, as many people, including myself, felt that you had to pay for the season pass to experience something which could be considered a full game. It will be difficult to know the true extent of that mistake until the release of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Judging from what has been shown so far, with their second attempt, EA seems to have righted the ship a little by making several huge changes which brings the series back in line with what the original games were about, the battles within the Star Wars Saga. EA has claimed that Star Wars Battlefront 2 will be much bigger than the first in the series, with more heroes, more vehicles, more eras, more battlegrounds, more customization, and more progression options in the multiplayer. This statement from EA is a clear reaction to the comments that the fans have been making in the time since the game has been released. In this case, it's abundantly clear that bigger is better, as the main complaint about the first game was the complete lack of playable content. This expansion can be traced to the fact that EA is introducing gameplay from the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy. Now, the original trilogy was very limited in its scope of planets and potential heroes, and by introducing all eras of the Star Wars saga, it doesn't limit the content in any way, giving the player the capability of using any vehicle, weapon, or character in Star Wars. By opening up the game to all eras, this dramatically increases the number of planets which can be used as locations, and due to the large scale of the conflict in the Clone Wars, it wouldn't have to be a stretch for the battles to actually be canon. And it also allows many of the favourite locations from the original games to return, with Naboo, Kamino and Yavin 4 making a return to the series. While Yavin 4 is part of the original trilogy, it's still great to see it return alongside other fan favourites. These maps brought something different to the game, with Kamino completely separating the fighting into multiple platforms and various levels, bringing verticality into play, while Theed was focused on a variety of interconnected plazas which could lead to players being flanked and surrounded. I honestly feel that what's needed in this new game is the variety in its locations, which can offer so many different options of playstyle, because what would be the point in having 20 different maps with only 4 variations of the same kind of map? Now, how each faction fits into the grand scheme of things is one point which seems to directly reflect the content of the original series, with the combatants matching the aesthetic of their respective time periods, which makes perfect sense. Previously, EA has done an excellent job by having Shore Troopers on Scarif and Snow Troopers on Hoth, so it'll be interesting to see what new location-specific units are announced in the lead up to release. Now, one big complaint I would have about EA's Battlefront would be that there was very little in the way of variety for your loadout. Sure, there were star cards, but those would be difficult to alter to a large degree during the match, and overall most players played with a similar loadout anyway, as certain ones were a lot more powerful. To fix this, Battlefront is rightfully returning to its roots by becoming class-based. This will expand the customization options, as the troopers can become a lot more focused in their offensive and defensive capabilities, as well as different aesthetics for each class. While customization wasn't present for the original games, EA's Battlefront had a valiant effort at trying to bring some personality to the units without going overboard. The customization options can set players apart in many different ways, and this can be compared directly to the clone troopers, as the only way they were able to show their individuality is through aesthetical changes to their uniform. So by allowing players to have different personalities for each class, as well as different loadouts, it only increases the immersion into the universe, ultimately achieving EA's goal of allowing the players to live their own Star Wars fantasies. And for me, classes are a lot more deliberate than loadouts. They set definitive rules on the gameplay. Now, this could be seen as something which limits the option for the player, but I think in the case of Battlefront, this only increases the capability of playing the game for a lot longer. Instead of simply increasing the level in a generic manner, you can work on specific aspects of your game and are rewarded for playing well in that class. Much like in the Battlefield series, there can be post-match rewards for the best players in each class, rather than simply the player with the most kills or most objective points. However, these should obviously still be included. Now, the return of battle droids has all but confirmed to bring with it all the rogering that was a staple of the original games. But will it also bring the sublime callouts by the clones to check those wrist rockets and all your other favourite catchphrases? I'd love to hear more on that in future trailers, as it added some personality to the battles. Now, another thing mentioned by EA was the heroes, and it was mentioned that some modes will support era crossover for heroes. Now, this is great news, because one of my favourite parts about Battlefront 2 was heroes versus villains in Mos Eisley. The fact that it may not only be contained to one map or even one game mode is exciting. Being able to have duels between heroes from across the entirety of Star Wars is something which can build upon the excellent attempt that EA had with their previous heroes versus villain mode, which they unfortunately just didn't have enough characters for until a majority of the DLC had already been released. And ultimately at that point, a majority of the fanbase were already isolated from a lot of the exciting gameplay. Now, this is something which hasn't been confirmed, but it looks likely that heroes will be a lot less powerful in the new game. They can still turn the tide of battle, but only if the user is smart and uses the hero's strengths to their advantage, rather than simply running into the heat of battle to take on multiple units. And I think this is a smart move. It really ensures that the heroes won't simply be wasted, and people will be a lot more conservative in their efforts to use the heroes. By introducing an element of risk to the hero gameplay, it can actually allow the rest of the team to work around the hero in ways which can introduce brand new styles of play. While this isn't something that brings it directly back, it can be compared to the special units seen in Battlefront 2. After reaching a certain score, new units would unlock for the player, allowing them to play as either command units or special units. And these were limited in number and had specific skills, and included the likes of the Clone Commander, the Magna Guards, Bothan Spies, and Dark Troopers. I hope the heroes haven't replaced this unit type entirely, as I'd love to see these special units return in some capacity, as it can only increase the variety of the gameplay. Overall, everything we've seen from Star Wars Battlefront 2 has given me hope. It has breathed life into my expectations for this game. It could have gone either way up until this announcement, and I honestly can't wait to get my heart broken in November when EA decides to sneakily go back on all of its promises. But the main thing for me is that they are understanding the needs of the player, and those needs all point to the game's returning to their roots and becoming a beautiful mess of fun battles within the Star Wars universe. Now we'll just have to wait until EA Play in a few weeks, where hopefully more will be revealed and even more of my fears can be washed away. There's definitely a lot more I'd like to talk about in terms of Star Wars Battlefront until then, so if you want to see more, I highly recommend subscribing to the channel, and as always, thanks for watching, and may the 4th be with you.